let's get into today's demo. All right, so many of you have probably heard of masking fluid when you're working in watercolor, and it is a latex liquid that lets you kind of paint that into your paintings to preserve white areas and that type of thing. Many of you are probably familiar with it. Good morning. Oh, Teresa from Baltimore, Lonnie in Nashville. Hey, Lonnie, so good to see you here. But I wanted to share a wax resist with you today. So wax can behave similarly like masking fluid to block off areas that you don't want receiving color for whatever reason. Okay, mostly it's going to be highlights and to preserve and to keep colors or areas of your painting light in value. Okay, all right, so you can go and buy, there are little wax crayons that you can get at like the art store. They're usually kind of pricey, and I mean, they're fine, they're good, but I'm telling you, just for the value, if you go to the grocery store and get a box of this is Gulf wax. It's paraffin wax for canning, and I think that probably, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that most of us in this group are old enough to know what this is, and even if you haven't used it, you saw it in your mother's pantry at some point in time. And so, if you're, typically people use it to, when you're canning jellies and jams and that type of thing, you melt some of the paraffin down to put a layer on the top of your jar after you have filled it with your jelly before you're ready to process it. And so I've used it before. Actually, I do can myself, and so I usually, when I'm doing jellies though, I don't really use paraffin, and probably it's just because we go through it so fast that we don't need the extra benefit of that layer of protection. So, but anyway, this is really good. It's food safe, and that's why one of the reasons why I recommend using it if you're going to use it in a painting. It's food safe. It has no odor. It's not going to stain your paper, and then just the handling of it. And then you touch your face. You don't have to worry about any kind of issues with it. So if you haven't seen it before, I'm just going to show you what it looks like. So let's go over to the work area right quick. All right, so here's the box, and you just can buy this in the grocery store. They usually have like a little section in there where there's some canning supplies, or at least they do in the South. I'm not sure about other parts of the country, but I'm just going to pull out a block. So it's little blocks of paraffin wax, and it is, paraffin is a petroleum-based kind of product. It's not like beeswax that's really organic and made by a creature, so this is going to stay really stable in your painting and not turn colors. It's not going to sour or spoil, where beeswax could potentially do that. So anyway, what I have done, I just took this, that comes out in these little blocks, and you can see where I cut off a piece. Now the wax is really hard and brittle, and so all I did, I just took it, and I took a razor blade and I just scored it on all four sides, all the way around, and made a pretty deep score. Did it a few times to go all the way around, and then once you get a deep score, you can just kind of pop off the piece, and then you've got a little piece to work with, because it is, kind of this big cake. And you've got 4 of them in here, and oh my gosh, it'll last you for generations, right? All right, so it is a little bit crumbly, but once you cut it off, you can kind of dust the pieces away. And so now you can use this and draw with it, work with it in your painting, and it's going to behave, or it'll feel kind of like using like a big pastel block, so you're always going to be moving the block around to get to some kind of a corner, or that type of thing, so that you've got a nice little drawing point. Okay, all right, so let's take a look at what I want to use this for today. Let me just show you a quick little something before we get into the painting itself. All right, let me cover up my paper here so I don't stain it. All right, so this was something that I did earlier. This is just sort of some paint on here, just some lighter colors, and I want to show you what the wax does. All right, so I'm going to take the wax, and I'm just sort of scribbling a design. It's just kind of random, but I'm just kind of making some marks, and I did that in this color area, and then I'm also going to do it in just where the white paper is. All right, so you can see what's going to happen here. You probably have figured it out. So now I can come back with a darker color. I'm just going to grab some of this purple and maybe a little bit of blue. Just kind of make a darker color here. And so when I come over this, you can see where the wax is preventing the blue from laying down onto the paper. And of course it's going to work and do the same thing in the areas where the paper is white too. All right, so you can see that there's a lot of potential here for, you know, working abstractly with this. You can do lots of layers, and you can see that I've put the wax down on top of lighter color, which preserves, you know, you can preserve lighter colors. And I could let this dry, come back and do another little design of wax, put an even darker color down, you know, just giving layer after layer of all of these different resist areas. And so it's just kind of a neat way to keep the paper clean, or at least keep a color preserved in some area. Okay, you can press down really hard. You know, I'm just going to really sort of lay that in there kind of hard, and really, you know, make a very you know, just a very firm edge all the way around. And you can see this is kind of these are kind of scratchy lines that I made with the wax, just because I didn't press down very hard. But you can press down really hard to get a complete, you know, to complete white area. That would be kind of handy for, like, you know, some kind of highlights or something like that. But one of the things that you have to know about the wax, it is permanent. Okay, so when you come into your painting and you add the wax on there, it's not coming back off the way masking fluid will. You know, when you paint masking fluid on, it will dry, you'll apply your paint. When that paint's dry, then you can peel the masking fluid away, but the wax is going to stay permanent and stay in place. So that's why it is kind of important to make sure you're using a food grade quality, so that it doesn't stain or have weird odors, or, you know, anything like that. Okay. All right, so let's look at our photo reference today. I'm going to pop this up here. All right, so you can see I've got this floral design, but look at those stems that are lighter in color with a really dark background. Okay, one approach for painting that is to go in and do a lot of negative painting, you know, make the stems green or whatever color you want them to be, and then go back into those dark areas and, you know, sort of give those a little bit of back painting there, or, you know, negative painting to expose those little stems. All right, so what I'm going to do today is a little bit different. I'm still going to keep those light stems, but I'm just going to use my wax to go over those stem areas to keep them protected, and then go back in with some dark value for that background, without the fussiness of having to be really careful and paint around all those little shapes. Okay, so it's just another technique. It's another method that you can use to help you create some intricate light values against a dark background. That's one way that you can use wax. There's many, but this is the one that I'm going to demonstrate today. All right, so let's get into the painting, and I'll kind of show you how this is going to go. Let me get back to my work area. All right, so I've kind of got a picture of the poppies here. This is sort of a 8 by 10-ish size piece that I've got here, paper that I've got here. I'm going to sort of come in here and just very loosely kind of make an outline of those little poppy shapes, just because I do want to know where they are and sort of keep up with those. I'm not going to do all of those really fancy details, you know, down here in this area. I'm not really going to draw that, but I am going to use my wax block to make a lot of texture in there, and I'll show you how that's going to work. All right, so just very loosely blocking in these little poppy shapes here. And I do have, I'm just kind of sketching a few of these little pods, or these little buds that haven't opened up just yet. Yeah, this little poppy is actually in front. All right, so I'm going to make like just a very faint line, pencil line, just to indicate the placement of these stems, just so I can sort of keep up with it. And these little guys have all got some kind of thing. All right, and then there's just all kinds of, you know, just intertwined things happening down here. There really lots of texture and everything with this really dark background. All right, so that's all the drawing I'm really going to do, although I think I will, just to kind of balance out my composition. I know there's not actually one here, but I'm going to put another little tiny poppy over here that looks like it's maybe about to, that it's just a little bit smaller than those. And I think that's what I'll do. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to come in here and get my paper wet. And, you know, the stems are green. I don't really have anything white that I want to protect right now. I really just want to focus on, you know, keeping everything sort of true to color with the, you know, with my photo. I will take my block, though. There are some tiny little highlights on the poppies that are really kind of light. And I think what I might do is just take my block, and I'm just barely scribbling just a little bit on the paper. I'm using a rough paper, and so when I just sort of barely kind of scrape across it, it's just laying down the tiniest little bit of wax that's going to produce very little resistance, you know. But it'll just give me a little bit of highlight on these little poppies, just a little bit. All right, so now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to wet everything. I still have not replaced my water bottle. And I would have probably spritzed everything with water just to get it all wet, but I'm just using a bigger brush and just kind of wetting the page. It's possible that I didn't give myself enough wax on that, but it's okay. It's not going to be that big of a deal. All right, so now I'm going to come in with, I'm going to get some greens going. I want kind of to mix up a green that's similar to the one that I'm seeing in the photo. Just sort of a brighter green. And I'm actually going to come in here and just get that green going everywhere, except I am leaving spots open for the shape of the poppies. I want to put nice big red spots where all those poppies are. And, you know, vary your greens. Come in here with just yellow on your brush, or just some green, you know, to just kind of mix it up a little bit. Getting lots of nice green in here. And I'll be honest, I'm going to just kind of make up the background. It is really, really dark, and I don't know necessarily that I want mine to be quite that dark, but I am going to do sort of, I don't know, I kind of think I want to do sort of a eggplant color, so I'm using a little bit of purple and a little bit of my Quin Sienna here, and I'm just going to come in here and just sort of randomly drop this in some places. I know that the background in the photo is really, really black. I kind of think I don't want to quite go that dark. You can, but I think I want to just keep a little bit more natural color. I just really like the idea that it's, you know, just really loose back there. Just adding a little bit of water. I'm going to put some of my bloodstone in here. And you notice I'm just letting the colors kind of just move and do their thing. Okay, now for that red. I'm really using, this is my Winsor red, and I'm going to mix the Winsor red, make sure that you can see it. Let's see, oh, somebody said, can we see the reference photo periodically while you paint? I do have a way to do that. I don't know, let's see. Let me see if I can do it on the fly. Hold on just a second. Let me get, Yeah, bear with me. It is working. I just need to do a couple of things over here on my little iPad to get it to show up. So, all right, so let's do this. And how about that? Okay. All right, so, oops, I just stuck my red in that brown. I didn't mean to do that. All right, let me get my red loaded back up again here. All right, so here's some of the red. This is my Winsor red. It's just, it's glorious, so vivid. And I'm going to get some of my permanent orange in there. The Winsor red's a little bit on the cool side of red. Now, red is a warm color, but it will tend to lean a little toward the violet side of the spectrum. So I'm just putting a little bit of orange in here. I'm just getting that really bright, almost bright tomato red kind of color happening here. And just dropping this in. All of this is just wet. This is very loose and freeform. This is just fun. And the Winsor red is it's got a lot of opacity. It's heavy. It sits really tight on the paper. A lot of coverage. It's really nice. Putting a little of my Quin Gold just on the undersides of those, and you can see the poppies are just sort of taking off a little bit. I'm liking that. All right, let me get back into some of that red and orange together. Let's see, I'm going to swap, what am I trying to say? I'm going to do these in reverse order. There we go. No. Okay, well, all right, I thought it would show a different side of the painting. It's not going to do that. All right, so I'm just going to leave that alone. I'm going to start working on the other poppies over here. Getting these in here. There were some areas I went over it with some wax earlier, and I didn't quite press down hard enough for it to leave some white, so I'm just not going to worry about that. I'm just going to keep those highlights maybe in the yellow sort of family. Getting some more of my Quin Gold. And these poppies are just fantastic. It's always fun to paint pretty much any kind of flower. Oh, and I forgot my little poppy my little pretend poppy over here. I forgot him. Make sure he's showing up. Alright, lots of nice color happening here. Now I can see still just a little bit of pencil line under here, for some structure for my flowers, but I'm not worried about it. I'm just letting all those colors just kind of go. And let's see, in fact, I'm liking that so much. I think I might just take a little bit of salt and kind of put it right on the top edges of the poppies to kind of serve as a little bit of a highlight. These are all different kind of techniques that we get into, and when you're taking a class with me, I'm not going to get too in depth with explaining everything, but I'm just kind of painting here. These are a lot of things we get into. Let me get some more green. I want to kind of, those greens they're vivid, but I want to darken some of them. I'm just getting a little bit darker green. And this is all still kind of wet down here, but I know that the greens are a little bit darker. In some places I can just see that I'm not really thinking about all of those stems and the shapes. I'm just kind of squinting and adding darker color in those areas where I'm seeing just the values change. If you just look at those greens, this is a perfect place to use your spray bottle, and like I said, I sacrificed it earlier, or last week, at the end of last week while we were working on the bus. We needed it to spray a solvent, and so I used it, and then I still haven't replaced my brush. Alright, I'm going to add some color up here. I think I'm going to go with sort of I want some gold color up here. I'm just feeling that. I want some warm kind of color up here. That's some of my Quin Gold. So you can see it's very loose. All of this is very loose. There's no details right now. I'm just laying in color and letting it do whatever it wants to do. I'm going to get some more of my bloodstone. Okay, I think I might even just tilt my board a little bit. Let me mop up my edges. Alright, so I'm just going to sort of tilt my board around, let some of that color just run a little bit. Alright, got a lot going on here. No details yet, just keeping it nice and loose. Alright, now I'm going to, I need to start building up the darker values and get my wax in place, but obviously all of this has got to be dry first. So let me make sure, I'm just looking real quick to make sure that I don't have a question or anything. Okay. Awesome. Got a lot of folks here. Okay, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of go back to the split screen version here while I'm drying. Maybe that'll, if you're still painting along or whatever, you can kind of do that. Okay. All right. So you can see I've got just a lot of nice loose color, and even here where I had my salt, I put some salt in place, and it just kind of created like the illusion of some highlights. There's one little spot where I did get the wax dark or heavy enough to resist a little bit, but I didn't do it quite hard enough. I was being too gentle with it. Alright, so now I've got this really nice foundation here to start kind of building my painting with. So I've got all of this dreamy, creamy color just sort of going in and out, and so you can see, I'm going to go, to the other one. Oops, let me do both. So you can kind of see, you can see where all the poppies are, and they kind of come over here. Now I had, just in the course of things with everything being wet, I had a big thing of red kind of run down here, and that's one of those things where especially with the style of painting that I do, I'm willing to cooperate with the things that happen. I have, I want to try to sort of put the colors and arrange them where I think they need to go. But, when you have things like this happen, don't fight those things, because it's probably going to wind up being something really beautiful that adds something unique to it. If you kind of go in here and start trying to fight with it, you really wind up mostly with just a place where it looks like you had a fight. And instead of it really flowing with the rest of the painting. Okay, and I guess if anybody has watched Bob Ross, you have these happy little accidents, right? So you kind of need to let them go. It's okay. Let me get my reference photo back up. So, oh wait, I can see it. All right, so what I'm going to do with this, I want to start drawing in on top of the stems, and I'm going to be protecting the colors that are here. And so that was the reason I wanted to get all these greens down, and and then some of these other secondary colors that have formed are they're going to become my stem colors. But I think that's just going to add a lot more interest, instead of just having painting little green sticks that sort of come up and meet all of these poppies. I'm going to have all of these unique fluctuations of tone and color that are going to become my stems. So to draw them, I'll probably do it a couple of different ways. If you've ever drawn with big blocks of pastel, you'll know to sometimes you can just use just right on the corner, or you can use the whole edge, and that's probably what I'm going to do to draw some of these stems. So I'm just trying to look up here, and I'm looking at my reference photo. I would definitely want to make sure I get a good solid line for those stems coming down, so that I've got some nice resist there. So I'm pushing down pretty hard on these, and let me get this whole picture up, and I can even zoom in just a tiny little bit. So, you know, I've drawn the stems. I can still see a little bit of my photo reference down here that I've, you know, that's underneath all of this. And can see little stems. And now there's all of this busyness that's happening. So even though I can't quite see exactly what I'm doing, I'm still going to come in here and just do some line work and scribble around to sort of capture and emulate a lot of that vegetation. All of those there's little buds, you know, that are in place. Any of those that I'm seeing, I'm just kind of making them one solid color, you know, a little, just a little area, a little circle. And the light, it's very hard to see from the angle where you're looking at it. Let me see if I can, this is not like looking at water, but you can see that where the chalk is kind of caking up a little bit and making some little loose bits, you know, we'll dust that away. But as you're working with it, you can see just a little bit of milky, you know, texture kind of happening in here. But I'm just trying to scribble around and emulate some of this texture that I know is happening in here. All right. Now what I'm going to do, in fact, I'm using a dry towel, and you can even use like a big brush that's dry just to kind of wipe away all the little flaky bits, because you kind of want to get those out. And remember, you know, none of this is coming back off of the painting. It's now part of the painting. All right, so I do want to go dark, you know, for this green, you know, that's down here. So I'm getting back into my green. This is a Serpentine Green by Daniel Smith. I really, really like this one. Some ultramarine and my bloodstone and maybe a little bit of purple. I love to mix my own darks and greens especially. And so I'm going to come in here. I've got this is just a wash brush. And again, if I had my spray bottle, I'd probably be wetting with it. But I'm just going to come in here and just do a little bit of water just to kind of wet this area. I'm wetting it like in little sections. It's not just one big wash of water, but I'm trying to emulate what it would have been like if I could have just spritzed this area a little bit. So I'm just coming in with some random brush strokes to get that area wet. Some of the paper's dry, some of it's not, but I'm going to come in here with this nice dark. Start laying this dark in. And you can see all of the resist is giving me some really nice textures, and I'm even starting to see some stems happening. See, there's a little stem. A lot of nice things happening here. And now over here I am on purpose kind of holding back from the edge of these poppies so that I protect their edges. Let's see, I'm trying to look at my reference photo for just a second. Alright, so I'm just coming here, I just wet my brush a little bit to kind of get some of the intensity of that pigment off. I just want to have just want to move around a little bit of this. It's really just dirty water that I have here, but I'm back painting around my poppies to give them some shape. And I've got areas where you can even take your towel, and I'm just blotting a little bit to kind of lift off any paint that's on the waxed areas. But you can see where it's skipping around. Look at all the little stems that I have created just by, see the wax resist stems? Look at all that beautiful texture. And it would have been so hard to paint all of those multiple sections, all those variations of color. Look at some of these stems that are popping up with red and or yellow tones and all that. Absolutely gorgeous. And I was able to do that by just kind of focusing on the wax resist. It really just does a fabulous job of giving you a nice natural texture, and you don't have to come in here and lift off you know, masking fluid and all of that stuff. It's just, it already has just kind of a natural sort of feel to it. I'm just coming through in some places and making my reds kind of pop out a little bit more. Let's see, I'm just looking back at my reference photo. Just coming through, kind of reinforcing some of these reds that need to pop a little bit more. Get some bloodstone in there for the center of that poppy, especially down in there. Very loose. Just want this to be fun. And see all of those base layers that you put underneath, that's what those are for, to give you all of this really beautiful interest and all these different things happening. This is just this green that I'm using right now. This is just basically the muddy color that was sort of on my palette from all the different sort of greens and everything. So I am getting dark in the background, but I didn't want to get quite as dark as let's see, I'm losing my shape here. Where'd my poppy go? Oop, I think I might have painted over part of my poppy. It's alright. Alright. But when you've got all these other colors that are underneath, it just adds so much interest and drama to what's going on. Just keeping it really soft. And in fact, while this is red out there, you know, I'm going to pretend like we've got more poppies, that they're just out there and you can't quite make them out, but they're there. Look at that. I'm going to tilt my board. Oops. I'm going to tilt my board just a little bit. Happy little poppies. Okay. I'm also going to have a little bit of fun. You know, see, at this point, you know, I won't go through it now because of just our time constraint, but I would probably, you know, let this dry, and I might come in and even do some more wax resist for some stems or, you know, something else that might be, you know, out there. But, you know, one of the things that I can do right now is just sort of reinforce some of these shapes that are out here. And you know that I love my Quin Gold. If you've been following me or working with me, you know that I got to have my Quin Gold. So I can kind of, you know, push some of these little stems up and out, because that Quin Gold will just push anything out of the way. I can even make little stems on these that are back there. That Quin Gold just really pushes all the other color away. And I can even come in, I'm just looking and seeing that there's, you know, a good bit of dark in some places. I'm just adding this is some of my bloodstone. And I'm just using it to kind of reinforce some more dark shapes, just so that I've got another extra layer of really, really dark. Yeah. Alright, So let's dry this and see what we've got. I just love these little waxy stems that still give me color and texture, and I don't have to go in there and peel it away. And oh my goodness, it's just perfect. Let me dry this. Okay. All right, I'm feeling pretty good about this one. All right, so let's peel away the tape and see what we got here. I'm telling you, there are so, and this is just one of the things that you can do with the wax. If you really want to, like I said, you could continue building more and more layers with this, if you wanted to. There's so many different things that you can do, and I love the fact that, there's the finished piece. Very, very happy with the way that this turned out, and just a humble box of wax, and it does say for candle making and many other uses. Okay, so you can do just about whatever you want to, but just this simple block of wax, and you saw what I was able to do with it, and I still have, this is enough. You can will it to your great grandkids. You're not going to probably use it all, and so it really does make a fantastic it's just incredible what it can do in terms of giving you those textures that you need. It's just fantastic. So definitely I saw this, somebody stopping at Publix this afternoon to get a box of wax. Yes, do that, absolutely. And somebody says, do you ever apply the wax heavily? Oh, okay, yeah, I know what you're saying. The putting the wax on so that it's heavy enough that it would actually begin to melt and move. That much wax is not how much is going down on the paper. The only way that you could probably get it to do that is, I guess you could take, if you wanted to do that, it might be kind of an interesting in terms of like a mixed media approach in your watercolor. If you took a little block of this and like took a cheese grater and do it on the side that's really fine for like Parmesan cheese, and just grate it up into sort of a crumbly pile, you could technically, experiment with it. You could take that and then sprinkle it out onto the paper. I wouldn't use a hairdryer though, just because it's going to blow it away, but you could definitely put it in the oven. I know it's crazy. Now you got to use good paper for this, okay? Like the Arches it's 100% cotton, so it's made out of cotton pulp, not wood pulp. That's why wood pulp watercolor paper, it crumbles and it falls apart, just like getting notebook paper wet. It's the same thing. But just like you can iron a shirt, cotton takes a lot of heat, so you could even put your oven, you could put your oven at like 180 and lay your painting on a cookie sheet and stick it in the blooming oven, okay, and and see what the wax is going to do. And then if it melts enough, you might be able to reach in there, get it out, sort of tilt it, let it run. I don't know, experiment with it. I would love to see what you come up with if somebody wants to do that. But I'm very pleased with the way that this painting turned out. Let me go so I can show it to you again. But very quickly done, very loose, very fresh, very spontaneous, and that's that whole idea, of using the really loose brushwork that's the thing that brings that immediacy and drama to the painting, and that's really the way that I have been working for several years now. I did once work very tight, very technical, and I wish I would have I meant to put it up here. When I post this one in the group, I will share another painting that shows you the type of technical work that I used to really, that I really would strive for. And I enjoyed that work, and I still, even when I see really highly technical, realistic work, I still think it's beautiful. I still appreciate all of the effort that went into it. I understand the accuracy and the work and all of that. And I did that for a long time, and I enjoyed the challenge of it. I enjoyed the challenge of really rendering very accurately, and so there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's a really good thing to practice a lot, because it does make you a better observer as an artist. But I know for me personally, over time, I began to feel like, you know, I was wanting something more. I was wanting a deeper experience with my own art making. And also, you know, when I would look at it or when others would look at it, I would want to communicate something other than just technical rendering. You know, so even when I see a beautifully rendered painting today, I absolutely appreciate it. I understand what went into it, but it doesn't move me, you know, in the same way as something that has got a more expressive, emotive quality to it. So that's something that I've been striving for a long time. So if you find yourself thinking that way and wanting to move into that, you know, you've come to the right place, because that's what I really want to try to help people understand, how to sort of bridge that gap from tight work into a more loose, energetic, free, spontaneous, emotive, moody, dramatic type of work, because it thrills me to make it, and I love the response that I get from other people when they see it, and then I have people who love it and they want to buy it from me. I mean, it's really wonderful, and so if I can help you do that, that's definitely why I want you to be here. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to post the pictures of this, and as far as this Gulf wax, you know, this stuff, it's available anywhere. You can get this, you know, I mean, I got mine at the grocery store, but you can get it at Walmart, you know, and especially in the South where there is lots of canning, it's readily available. So if you're out west or in the northern states, I'm not sure, but I'm almost certain you could order it on Amazon if you wanted to. Okay, so all right, well, let me know if anybody has any questions. I'm looking over everything just to see. Had so many folks here. So glad to see you. I don't think I've got any more questions. If you do, just post them in there. If you're seeing this after the fact, just give me like a little hashtag replay to let me know that you saw it afterward, and I'll answer whatever questions I have, and I'll share this with you very soon. So thanks so much for joining me, guys. I'll be in touch with you soon. And paint this week. I can't wait to see what you do, and definitely these wax paintings. Thank you. Well done once again. Your sessions are always informative. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. That means so much. I definitely want to help you guys. It's too hard to reinvent the wheel. So anybody that can, you know, that can show you some things that help you get to where you want to go a little bit quicker, I'm all for it. Okay, so awesome, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, friends, and I will see you next week. Thanks so much.